Let's move on to social media from socialism. Would you believe it? Social media is not good for your brain. Now, I think we all kind of knew this in some way or another. And of course, once upon a time, people used to refer to the television as the idiot box. Of course, that's not what it is if you're watching us. You're watching us to learn things. So we'll call it the smart box when you turn your telly onto Sky News. But researchers at Swinburne University have actually compared the brain activity of people watching television, the idiot box, playing video games and scrolling through social media. And their findings are truly shocking. They found that people who watch TV actually have an uptick in brain activity. So too, people who play video games, because of course you're doing things when you're playing a video game. You've got to think and you might be strategizing and what's the next move, etc. But totally different to those two things. When they monitored the brain activity of people using social media, they found an immediate reduction. They found that they were less focused afterwards, and the particular parts of their brain that deal with mood and focus stopped working so fast. This was in the Scientific Reports Journal. Now, it is early stage work. It probably confirms some preconceptions that we had. And they're opening up the idea now that, you know, if this is possible, this is what is happening, because it's to do with the flow of oxygen into the brain. And so what they're seeing is that when you're using social media, the oxygen is going in, but it's not being used, so it comes straight back out again. So if you do that long-term, James, is it possible that it causes long-term damage to your brain?
Huh?
Case in point.
Sorry, I missed that. What did you say?
Yeah, exactly. You've lost focus, James. Get with the program.
I don't understand why this is so revolutionary. Everybody knows this. Every parent has seen their kids sit there dull on the couch just scrolling through mindlessly. And I don't know why we need experts to tell us that this is bad for us. I tell you who is interested in this, though. I think advertisers would be very interested in this information, because if you can advertise to people when their brain is effectively on slow motion, it's much easier to slip messages into their consciousness than when they've got all their logical reasoning faculties working. So I think advertisers would be thrilled at this news.
I think what is interesting is after you've been scrolling on social media for a while, they call it doom scrolling, where you're just sitting there endlessly, you do feel tired and lethargic and down. Whereas if you've just watched a really great TV show or played video games or done something like that, you don't feel as tired. But this study was also done on adult brains. Imagine what this is doing to children's brains. This study, they spent 3 minutes on social media. The average teenager is spending at least an hour a day. So you think about the scale of that. This is a massive experiment on an entire generation, and the consequences are going to be devastating. But the other implication of this is that even in things, you mentioned advertising, political communication has totally changed, because people don't have an attention span anymore. These were some of the social media clips that were uploaded to TikTok during the federal election campaign by the Liberal Party and Labor. And you'll see they're both doing it, resorting to memes and brain rot, which is what this format of video is called, just to attract the attention of young audiences. This was one from the Liberal Party.
Most prices have gone up.
But why?
Cause Labor are in charge. They can't manage an economy. But hey, at least knee surgery is tomorrow.
Authorised A. Hurst, Liberal Party, Canberra.
Very, very bizarre, but believe it or not, that got millions of views. And here's an example of what Labor did.
Medicare calamare versus Dutto Lacutto. Fight!
Authorised PR.
I mean, if that is the future of politics, I think we're all screwed.
Brain rot indeed.
No doubt.
And I think that's the interesting thing. I know, James, you say, everyone already knew this. But the point I was making before is that everyone thought the same about television. And what this is indicating, and again, this is, very preliminary work, so they'll have to study further, particularly into what the long-term effects might be. But what it would seem to indicate is that it's, not all screen time is the same. And we talk about screen time as this homogenous thing. It's all, screen time is bad, screen time is bad. And look, to some degree, screen time may be bad because for a kid in particular, you're probably better off in the backyard playing cricket with your brother or sister than you are sitting in front of a television. But it would seem from this that using social media, like of all the versions of screen time, is even worse, is particularly pernicious. And I think that is a really interesting bit of research.
There was a fascinating book that came out many years ago called Remotely Controlled, and it was about the damage that television was doing to children's attention span. And one of the interesting things they did was they looked at episodes of Sesame Street in the early 70s, and they counted the number of cuts in scenes over the course of an episode and compared that to the number of cuts in a scene sort of in the 90s, and showed how much quicker scenes would change, and attributed that to the poor attention span of kids. Their argument was it wasn't the content of television, it was the medium itself that was damaging kids. So you're quite right. As damaging as TV is, scrolling endlessly on your telephone, it's that the content can be quite bad. We talk about that regularly, but the medium itself is damaging kids' brains.
Yeah,
And on the
for sure.
telephone, by the way, can I just note that you called it the telephone? I might do it from time to time in an ironic way, but you'd be about the only. I was scrolling on my telephone last night, and I came across an interesting piece of information.
Yeah, we can tell James doesn't do much scrolling at all.
Good on him.